What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the infamous Canadian Robert Pickton. So, like most Americans, I don't know much of anything about this man, but very recently he has actually been in the news, and that is because he's no longer alive. Canadian serial killer Robert Pickton died after a prison attack, of all things. I found this to be very interesting. It says that convicted Canadian serial killer Robert Pickton died on Friday, so just a few days ago, actually, at the age of 74. So I don't actually know when he was convicted and sent to prison initially, but he's made it all the way to the age of 74. And then after he was assaulted by another inmate. Wow, that's how he went. He was murdered by another inmate in the prison, in the maximum security prison earlier this month. Wow, I don't know what to think about this. It's like, you want to believe that the justice system should kind of act on its own accord, and he was sentenced to prison and carrying out his punishment, but at the same time, it's very difficult to have any sort of sympathy for this kind of man, and the fact that he was himself murdered in the end in prison. Maybe that's some kind of ironic justice, or you can kind of come to your own conclusions about that, but I just thought this would be a really interesting story for me to learn more about. I want to do this in the most sensitive way possible because I anticipate that, because he murdered people, there were a lot of friends and family who were directly affected by this horrible man and his crimes. So my heart really goes out to those people. And I guess viewer discretion is certainly going to be advised for this video that we're going to watch called Piggy Palace. I'm not exactly sure what the Piggy Palace is. Oh my god. The title of this video is Piggy Palace Massacre. Mature audiences only. So yeah, I anticipate this story is disturbing. So, you have been fairly warned. And with that being said, let's take a look at the story of Robert Pickton.
Robert Pickton was born in 1949 in Port Coquitlam in British Columbia, which is about 15 miles to the east of Vancouver.
British Columbia, I didn't know that. Near Vancouver. This is interesting details. I didn't know this.
Along with his brother and sister, were raised by their parents on a big pig farm. In the 1970s, their parents passed away, and so the property was handed down to them. Robert and his brother took over the daily operations of the farm. And
I don't know. Maybe it's just because I know he's a convicted serial killer, but these pictures of him standing around the pig farm with like big giant metal hooks and stuff, like it's unsettling. Would I think anyone else standing in this pose next to a bunch of dirty machinery and a giant hook would be disturbing? Maybe not. Maybe it's just because it's him. I don't know. But yeah, so his parents died and he and his siblings inherited a pig farm, okay?
And their sister decided to just move away. Over the next couple of decades, Robert and his brother attempted to run the pig farm, but pretty quickly they stopped taking care of it and it fell into decline. Neighbors and visitors recalled seeing the pigs that were still there free roaming the property. And as for the brothers, it appeared they had just stopped bathing, and despite walking all day in mud and pig feces, it seemed like they never took off their boots when they went inside.
What? So this is serial killer behavior, if ever I heard it. Also very irresponsible business practices on top of that. I hope he was charged for that too. And probably inhumane treatment to the pigs. Just, they stopped caring about the farm, stopped caring about the animals. They're roaming wildly around the premises. And then they're not bathing anymore. They're not taking their boots off anymore. I guess the signs were kind of there, at least that they were very strange. Okay.
One of the few farm workers that stayed with the Picktons through the farm's decline was a guy by the name of Bill Hiscox, and he said the farm was a really creepy place. And he also said Robert was a really creepy guy that was prone to just totally bizarre behavior, even though he didn't smoke or drink or use any substances. Eventually, the Pickton brothers realized they were not cut out to run the pig farm like their family had for generations before them, and they decided their best move was just to sell portions of their land. But neither...
Wow, so that's interesting. They actually tried to like run it like a business, failed because they're strange and apparently not the most diligent businessmen, or I don't know what they wanted, what they were doing instead, because they weren't even bathing. And then they sold it. Okay.
Of them could have guessed just how much their land was worth. From 1994 to 1995, they managed to sell off almost all of their property to an urban developer for over $5 million. And so suddenly these filthy, failed pig farmers had become millionaires.
Yeah, no kidding. Isn't that just how life works? I tell you, isn't that just how it works out? Like the people that inherit the millions in pig farm land end up to be these weird, crazy... I don't know if they were both serial killers, but one of them, Robert, was. They're the ones that get the millions of dollars, of course. That's how it works.
And neither of them knew what to do with the money. After a year of just sitting on the money and not doing much with it, they decided they wanted to do some good with their money. And so they established an official charity in 1996 called the Piggy Palace Good Times Society.
What? What is this story, man? This is weird. It keeps throwing curveballs. I thought they were just, I don't know, bad people. And now I learn they started a charity with their weird Piggy Palace. That's how you know they were weird. They weren't able to, like, recognize that was a strange name. The Piggy Palace. It's like Chuck E. Cheese, where you take your kid to the arcade. Piggy Palace... They started the Piggy Palace charity, which, I don't know, maybe some small part of them was trying to do something good? I don't know.
Their charity's purpose, at least on paper, was to help raise money for various organizations that they deemed worthy by running events like dances and shows. And while that might have been their original intention for this charity, what it ultimately became was a guise to host these wild drug and alcohol-fueled parties inside of their slaughterhouse, which, even though it wasn't being used anymore because they were no longer really doing any pig farming, it still conspicuously had big hooks coming down from the ceiling and bloodstains all over the ground underneath them.
Who were these people showing up to these drug-infused raves in their slaughterhouse? Who? So anyone out there who is actually, can do an interview, somewhere on YouTube where I can watch where they talk about going to these parties at Robert Pickton's slaughterhouse, high on drugs? So the charity was just a front. Okay, all right, just when I was starting to give him a little bit of credit, maybe he did one nice thing in his life. Nope, it was just a front for crazy slaughterhouse parties.
These Piggy Palace parties became infamous in Coquitlam, drawing crowds of up to 2,000 people, predominantly bikers, drug addicts, and prostitutes from the poverty-stricken downtown east side of Vancouver. Robert had become familiar with that part of Vancouver because he used to go through there all the time to dispose of animal waste products at their rendering plant. Once the Piggy Palace charity was in full swing, Robert started going back into that neighborhood where he would cruise down the 10-block strip called the Low Track and would attempt to recruit people to come to his parties.
This is somewhere in Vancouver, I think he said, a street in Vancouver where he's recruiting people to come to his weird piggy parties. Okay, I didn't know exactly how this story was going to go. I can't say that I imagined this. Okay.
Most of the people he recruited were down-on-their-luck women who only agreed to go because he was offering them food and money and drugs and alcohol. At the same time Robert was running this recruiting campaign, women from the downtown east side began disappearing in droves. These disappearances were noticed by the men and women in the downtown east side, but they didn't report them because they had a general distrust of the police and of authority figures in general.
Women are disappearing. in the exact same area that Robert Pickton is going around recruiting, quote unquote, people to come to his parties, which were apparently quite popular. Thousands of people went. I still can't get over that. But anyway, this is sort of a turning point in the story where finally something truly nefarious is going on. If the weird slaughterhouse party wasn't nefarious enough, yeah, at that point it's like whatever. If you're into that, fine. I won't judge you too much. But now people are starting to disappear, and that's concerning. And the police are not involved yet.
But as more and more and more women disappeared from the downtown east side, rumors of a serial killer operating in that area started to circulate.
Okay.
Residents began only going outside if they could walk around in a big group of people, and everybody was just totally on edge, keeping careful lookout for anything odd about the neighborhood, people that shouldn't be there, cars that shouldn't be there. But despite this heightened security, women continued to go missing at a rapid rate, and nobody knew why. When the
Oh my God. I don't know how many victims Robert Pickton had. And if he is in fact responsible for all of these disappearances, it sounds like there's a lot of victims. People are disappearing just regularly.
police were finally contacted about all these missing women, their response was lacking, to say the least. Since there were no bodies of these missing women, the police said it was reasonable to assume that the women were to blame, that their lifestyles must have caught up with them and they either ran off somewhere or perhaps they overdosed somewhere and their bodies just haven't been found yet.
All right, like I get it. I get there's going to be some kind of predisposition, especially for law enforcement, to be like, okay, these are people who are down on their luck. These are the dregs of society. Like who cares if these people are missing? They're drug addicts. They're homeless, and they probably did it to themselves anyway. That doesn't entirely surprise me that was the reaction of the police. But at the same time, you have to have the ability, especially if you're the police, to at least follow up on this and look into this, especially if the amount of people that he's describing have gone missing. You have to do your due diligence, even if you are stereotyping these people as like, whatever, they probably ran off and fell in a ditch somewhere. It's their own fault. It's your duty as like the police to follow up on this and at least do something, look into this to some extent. So that's really a big failure on their part, I think.
Yeah. Despite residents of the downtown east side saying, no, this is different, there's something wrong here, the police basically said, we're not getting involved. When the newspapers found out about this totally apathetic response from the police, they criticized them for intentionally deprioritizing these missing women because the majority of them were drug addicts and prostitutes, and so therefore weren't worthy of a full investigation.
Exactly. Good. I'm glad someone called them out. Okay.
The police rejected this claim. On the evening of March 22nd, 1997, so 1 year after the Piggy Palace had been stood up and they started throwing all these parties, and 1 year after dozens of women have gone missing from the downtown east side.
Dozens? Dozens of women are missing. The police aren't doing anything. This has got to be terrifying. Terrifying for the people that are in this area that maybe know some of these women. Terrifying for the community. Doesn't even matter. Even if you're in anywhere close to there. It's like dozens of people are missing.
The Pickton's neighbor heard a frantic knock on their front door. They ran over, they opened it up, and what they saw was this woman who was hunched over with one hand on her bleeding stomach, and dangling from her wrist was a handcuff. The neighbor was obviously shocked at what they were seeing, but they quickly ushered the woman in, and they called her an ambulance.
What? Oh my God. This is where it all begins. One of Robert Pickton's neighbors had one of these missing women run to their front door, cut open with handcuffs. Literal horror story. I can't even believe this is real life. Okay, let's keep going. Now we're kind of getting into it.
The woman was rushed to the hospital where she immediately was put into emergency surgery. Afterwards, while she was in recovery, she told her nurses that her name was Wendy and she had been at one of those piggy palace parties, and one of the owners of the farm, Robert Pickton, had tried to put a handcuff on her, and when he did, she fought back. He drew a knife, he stabbed her in the stomach, she was able to get the knife back, she stabbed him in the face before turning and running out the door and making it to the neighbor's house. Right?
What? What? This story is insane. This is insane. Okay. So this woman actually escaped Robert Pickton. Okay. I think that I understand where we are in the story. Robert Pickton has already committed dozens of his crimes, dozens of his serial killings and murders. That's what's been taking place. Now, finally, this is the first woman he tried to kidnap who fought back and actually succeeded in escaping. And she got stabbed, but she stabbed Robert Pickton in the face? Really? Like, what's going on with him then? Is he gonna show up to this hospital? Is he just, like, at home, like, covering it in pig mud? The old pig mud remedy to, like, clog up the hole in his face? Oh my god. So she's at the hospital. She's telling people, the police, I think, Robert Pickton tried to kidnap and kill me. So they're gonna go get him, right?
After she told this story, Robert Pickton actually showed up at the exact same hospital with a serious laceration on his face that was consistent with being stabbed.
He did show up. He did show up to the hospital because he needs help. What?
The medical staff had already called the police, who showed up minutes later, and when they went inside, they searched Robert and they found in one of his pockets a handcuff key. And that handcuff key opened the handcuff that was still on Wendy's wrist. And so when the police saw that, they arrested Robert on attempted murder. While Robert...
Okay. He's under arrest. He's been caught red-handed. Couldn't be more clear. But I don't think at this point they understand exactly what he's been doing. But this is how he was caught. That's so fascinating. Fascinating that he actually turned himself into the hospital. I guess he didn't need help. But shouldn't he have known that would have been kind of the end for him? Showing up to the hospital. And, oh my god, he had the handcuff key still in his pocket? He is the worst. God. He's just the worst. He's the worst. And he's not too bright either. So is this like officially when he went to jail, or is this the end of the story? Or it seems like there's quite a bit more.
Robert was in custody, he explained to officers that Wendy was lying. She was a drug addict, and she had come to one of their Piggy Palace parties, and he had caught her trying to rob them. He had confronted her, she drew a knife, and that's when a struggle ensued, and both of them got stabbed. And Robert said he was just lucky to be alive. The police believed him and dropped all of his charges and let him go. When Robert got back to...
No. No way. Wow. No way. He was caught red-handed. There's no disputing he was caught, like, with a wound, like she said in her story, with the handcuff key. He just lied. It was actually kind of a good move. He didn't try to make up a different story. Like, he's like, yeah, I got stabbed. She got stabbed. I tried to handcuff her. It all happened, but I had a good reason. She tried to rob me, and wow. And that actually worked. Wow, that is sickening.
To the farm, Bill Hiscox, the one worker who still worked for the Picktons, he grew very suspicious of Robert. He had read all about the missing women from the downtown east side, and he knew Robert regularly went over there to pick up women and brought them back to his parties.
Yes, good. Someone finally is like, hey, this really smelly pig farmer, rich former pig farmer who, like, gets women to come back to his house alone for his weird slaughterhouse parties. He seems a little suspicious to me. Finally, someone's putting it together.
And Bill just always had that gut feeling that something was off about Robert. And so
Yeah,
he sat
yeah.
on this gut
Yeah.
feeling for a couple of months until finally he decided he had to tell someone. And so he
Okay.
called the Crime Stoppers tip line and he told them that he thought Robert had actually attacked Wendy, not the other way around, and that actually Robert was most likely behind some or all of these missing women from the downtown east side.
Good for this guy. Good for him. It took him a while. My God, it took him a while. And people probably died in the meantime, but at least he finally, he called anonymously and tipped off the police about Robert. Okay.
Bill also said that a recent female party guest at the farm had seen a pile of women's clothing inside of Robert's trailer, along with at least 10 purses and women's ID cards. The police followed.
Thank goodness these people, like, reported this, because it's so blatantly obvious. At the time, it's like, they don't know all the facts and they can't put it together, like, as easily as I can, getting to hear the story in hindsight, but finally, they're like, hey, we gotta check out this guy.
Followed up with Lisa to confirm what she saw, but she was scared of Robert and said she wasn't going to cooperate. And so the police, without this testimony, were unable to secure a search warrant to investigate this further, and so they kind of just forgot about it and moved on to other cases.
Oh my God, it is scary how difficult it is for, like, the justice system to work sometimes. They can't even, like, investigate this potential serial killer despite a mountain of evidence and numerous people calling in about him. They can't do anything about it because of how the justice system works. That's kind of scary.
Over the next few years, the Picktons continued to throw these huge piggy palace parties until the city finally shut them down, and dozens more women disappeared from the downtown east side without a significant police investigation.
Dozens more. They shut down the piggy palace finally. Finally. Dozens more women? There were dozens before. How many women did he kidnap or murder? This is sounding ridiculous. Like it could be like 40, 50. Is that actually right?
Despite the fact that Bill was calling them all the time to say he believed Robert Pickton was behind all of these disappearances.
Yes!
But they weren't taking him seriously. Finally, in 2002, a former employee of the Pickton farm came forward to police and said that he personally had seen illegal weapons inside of Robert's trailer. And this was enough information for the police to get a search warrant and raid the pig farm.
This is enough. This is finally enough. I don't know where you cross the line. Somehow, someone saying that there's illegal weapons, the law works in such a way that now they can search his home. Is this what they found?
And in February of that year, they did just that. And they found inside of Robert's trailer the illegal guns, as well as several items directly connected to some of the missing women from the downtown east side.
Wow.
Robert was arrested, but let out on bail. He was put under surveillance and told he could not go back to the farm until they were done conducting a more thorough search.
Good. Wow, he was out on bail. He could have done anything. He could have tried to flee the country or something. I don't know what happens exactly. But they finally got him, even though he's out on the streets on bail. I guess he could afford it because he's a millionaire. But they're watching him, and they're going to search his home. And I can only imagine what they found.
And during that more thorough search, they found blood from one of the missing women inside of Robert's trailer. And so Robert was rearrested and charged with murder. While he was being held in jail, he shared his cell with another man who he believed was just another detainee. But he wasn't a detainee. He was actually an undercover police officer, and their entire interaction was being recorded.
Oh, no way. That is so smart. I gotta remember this if I ever am sent to prison. I don't plan to be. I don't know why I would be. Please don't take this the wrong way. But I would never have suspected that they do that kind of thing. That's just interesting prison knowledge, you know? You gotta be prepared for anything, I guess. Anyway, they had him behind bars. They had an actor playing his inmate, getting all this information from him. That is so smart. I'm so glad they could do this. I didn't know if that was legal or not. Very interesting.
And on this recording, Robert makes a few shocking statements.
Ooh.
Where you got it? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay, I know what's up. You got a missing person. We better fucking cut him in it. I thought the best way to dispose of something was to take it to the ocean.
Oh, wow. I like this strategy. He's kind of like egging Robert on. Like, hey, this is how I dispose of bodies. I think it's pretty good. I don't know how you do it. And Robert is totally playing into this.
And even that. No.
A rendering plant? What is a rendering plant? Is that like, I want to say it might have something to do with the pig farm, like for processing pig bodies? Like, I don't know what they have to do with like the excess pig material, we'll say. Like if this word render, like if they cut it up and like dispose of it that way, and is that how, did he use some of that process on the women's bodies, maybe?
That's good. Pretty good. Okay? Mm-hmm. Too much left.
This is crazy. This is crazy, seeing this actual footage. This is actually insane. He's basically bragging about how good he was at disposing the bodies, and that it got too messy, like...
Maybe 50. That's what I was talking about. Feel the surges out with antifreeze, and you inject yourself, and you're dead better than 10 minutes.
Oh my god, he's absolutely insane. I think we all knew that, but my god, hearing it from his mouth... Like, the thing he's most upset about right now is that he didn't get to an even 50 murders. Absolutely disgusting human.
Ladies bigger than months in the States. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is already about 42.
As Robert admits in this video, he killed 49 people, who would turn out to be the majority of the missing women from the downtown east side.
Wow, 49. Soak that in for a second. This guy killed 49 human beings. That's unimaginable. That is, yeah. Kind of going back to the beginning of this video, when we were looking at the news report, it's like, maybe he got what was coming to him last week. Maybe. A long time coming. I think a lot of people would probably agree with that.
After a lengthy investigation, it was determined Robert's killing spree began in 1991, but it really kicked up a notch in 1996 when he and his brother started Piggy Palace, because he was able to use their huge parties to lure more victims to his farm faster.
Yeah.
And once they were at his farm, he would lure them into his trailer, where he would handcuff them, tell them it's over now, and he would inject antifreeze into them, or he would strangle them to death.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad they threw him in prison and threw away the key. And now he's dead. So it is what it is. Oh my god. What a creepy picture as well. Like, let's just say that. There he is. Where he probably killed dozens of people. Injecting antifreeze into their body. I'm not even sure what that would do to you. Or by what mechanism that kills you. It's disgusting though.
Afterwards, he would move the victim's body to the slaughterhouse, where he would butcher them like a pig. A large portion of his victim's remains would be fed to his pigs, and the parts he didn't feed to his pigs, he would bring to the rendering plant in the downtown east side, which is not far from where the victim was most likely picked up.
He fed the remains of the victims to his pigs after butchering their bodies like they were animals or something. Like, this is one of the absolute worst stories I've ever heard, ever, of any kind.
A rendering plant takes animal waste products, crushes them up, and turns them into a gelatin.
Okay.
This gelatin is used in many everyday products, from candy to cosmetics, which means Robert's victims wound up in things like lipstick and gummy bears. Also,
Huh? What? Huh?
sometimes while Robert was going through this horrific disposal process, he would set aside some of the best cuts of meat and grind them up with pork and turn them into sausage. This sausage was served at piggy palace parties. It was also given to neighbors and
This just gets worse and worse. What the heck is this? What is this? This is disgusting.
food banks and orphanages. After sifting through 300,000 cubic
This man is sick. Sick!
meters of soil and pig feces underneath the Pickton farm, investigators were only ever able to find little bits of remains of 26 women. Robert was charged with all 26 murders, but only 6 turned into convictions due to a lack of evidence. He was sentenced to life in prison and is still alive today. His brother and sister were never charged in connection with the crimes.
Okay. There you have it. Except this video is now out of date. He is not alive today. And after hearing this whole story, I'm glad. I know that might sound kind of harsh or whatever you want to call it, but you can't feel any sympathy for this guy. Absolutely insane, absolutely disgusting. He killed 49 people, ruined the lives of countless more who might have been family of the victims, and yeah. But he's gone now, so that's good. What's not good was this story. My God, I'm going to be thinking about this one for a while, but I was very, very curious. He popped up in the news, and I was like, Robert Pickton, who is that exactly? What did he do? And I didn't know what I was going to expect, but it wasn't quite this. But this video was good. It was well made. This was by Mr. Ballin. I got to give it a like. He told the story very well, and what a terrible story indeed. What more can you say about this? If you enjoyed this video, even though I did not enjoy this story, but I don't know. It was interesting to learn about, and if you enjoyed it for those reasons as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on this story, Robert Pickton, his life and death, anything like that. That'd be very interesting to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture with this, which this technically falls under, although I have to say I don't usually react to such disturbing material. But if you're interested in more of this, me learning about Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.